So of course, obviously you guys know that I am Jack because you have signed up and registered for this. And we're gonna do a hands-on demonstration. Green stage finishing zirconia is still the #1 thing I get asked about and I talk about a lot. And I'm gonna show you a video. I pre-recorded it just so that I can get a more quality to the video so you guys could actually see what's going on. And that way it's a little bit better for you. And then I'm just going to narrate over the top of it. And the video's roughly 15 minutes long. And then as soon as that's over, we'll go right to Q&A. So save your questions for the very, very end. I'm going to bring up the video. And we'll start right now. Hopefully, let me know, guys, in the comments if you can hear me over the music. Make sure that I'm talking loud enough so that you could hear the actual narration. And here we go. And that's the Renford Brilliant Disc. I still don't use diamonds. I've used these forever. And as they get smaller in size, I'll go ahead and just keep using them. I'll have a couple mounted up. Dialite rubber wheels from Brasseler, Scotch-Brite. Those are going to be the H293Es and the H295E from Brasseler. Same thing here, 842R. You're going to have a flame, 863 and an 850 round end taper from Brasseler. HP Dent Yellowstone. This is Harvest Dental. After post-sinter, if you ever have to do any type of reduction, kind of like sprues, removal of sprues, I use that because it grinds very, very quickly and aggressively without heating up the zirconia, which is really, really key. First, we're going to go ahead and remove our sprues from milling after we've removed it from the puck. This is pretty simple and straightforward. And you could use one of these carbides that I use to do that. They cut very, very smooth. They're not chippy. They run very true. And then they remove them very quickly as well. And for dusting them off, I mean, you could use anything from a toothbrush. A lot of times I'll use stippling brushes from the craft store. Here is that Renford Brilliant Disc in action. Again, it cuts very, very smooth. It's very, very true. And for the incisal embrasures, I'll usually go down about 1 millimeter. Remember, everything you do now, you want to kind of exaggerate because it's going to shrink. You can see how I tip it up. And if this was a hybrid, I'm tipping it up because I'm looking for the screw access holes. A lot of times everybody asks me how deep I go for embrasures. As deep as the restoration will allow me. So I'll never go so deep that I compromise the structure. But you can see in this case with no screw access holes behind those sites, it's pretty thick and we have a lot of gingival zirconia that's on this restoration. I'll go ahead and open those up fairly deep on here, and I'm confident that my restoration is going to stand the test of time. I don't have to worry. If there was a screw access behind there, I'm not going to cut into it. If it's a cantilever molar, I don't cut into it at all. Another thing I do is, you know, I talk about hybrids a lot, but you know, I do a 3-unit bridge in the posterior. The same thing goes true. So if I'm doing a 3-unit posterior bridge, I'll cut my gingival embrasures, you know, kind of according to my crown height. If it's really, really short, I'm not really going to cut in there. But if I have a tall tooth and a tall pontic, you got a little bit of room for a little bit of separation. I do not open up on the occlusal in between the marginal ridges. I leave that. Don't cut in between there. It doesn't add anything to it, and you do risk fracturing your zirconia later on once it's been delivered in the mouth. And I don't cut on the lingual side either. There's really no gain to it. And again, you could risk compromising your restoration later on down the road. So now we'll go and after we've basically, we've cleaned up everything, we've got some initial separation, I'll go ahead and open up those gingival embrasures a little bit more. I tell everybody, often that, with the gingival embrasures, that's what really brings it to life. Zirconia sometimes ends up looking flat, almost like one chunk. If you Google Zirconia hybrid, just take a look at a lot of the restorations that pop up, and a lot of times the ones that don't look as great is due to lack of separation. If you could separate, do it. In the gingival embrasures, especially in a situation between 9 and 10 or 7 and 8, that embrasure is really, really important, and it plays a key role in the overall end aesthetic. Now I'm just going to go ahead and give the teeth a once over, using in that instance a round end taper. This brush, and you could use anything, this brush is a brush that came with one of the sintering ovens. But I'll remove the excess material as I go on. We'll go back to the carbide for some gross reduction. Really go ahead and start contouring that gingiva. Gingiva's, it's pretty incredible. When you look at it, I mean, it's got texture, it's got contour, it's shaded. There's a lot going on down there, so a lot to pay attention to. And we're going to go ahead and start to establish that foundation right now. I don't go crazy with my gingival architecture right now at this point. I basically laid down a nice foundation because I'm going to come back over with, like say, Mio Pink and add that surface texture and, a little bit more anatomy to it. So I'm just going to basically lay the groundwork for it. And this is pretty much in real time with the exception of changing out the burrs. When we first did the video, it came out too long. I don't have that much time with you guys on this Friday evening, although I wish I did. So we sped it up a little bit. Otherwise, this is basically pretty much in real time. You could see that gingiva starting to come to life. You could see the teeth starting to come to life. See, Donnie Bridges has come on now. Now this you guys have not seen me do. In some instances, I mean, it's not often. Most of the time I do this exactly the way I do it. But if I want to get some really, really fine detail, and if I want to clean it up a little bit, I'll basically just use my old wax carver that I don't use for wax anymore. And I'll put a nice sharp edge on it with my rubber wheel. And you can carve zirconia, sharpen it. Go ahead, use a rubber wheel, sharpen the edge, and it will carve zirconia very, very nicely. With this, it's a nice way to smooth it up. It's a nice way to add fine detail and surface texture. It's also a nice way to accentuate that gingival cuff right where it meets the tooth in the CEJ. And you will be surprised how easy it is to carve it. And you can see right there, I'm just accentuating and making a greater distinction between the tooth and the gingival cuff. Now remember, when it comes to fine detail too, and I'm guilty of it. I've seen some exquisite green stage zirconia. I have gone crazy because I mean, at this point, this is really the artistic element of it, and you could lose yourself into this, really easily. just enjoying what you're doing. And it really is enjoyable. And I have gone, you know, over the top with the fine detail, and, you know, not disappointed, but understand sometimes, you know, when you do go a little too far after sintering, you lose some of that. So just keep an eye on how fine the detail is you're actually applying. And you can start to see the difference, how it really transforms from one side to the other, from where we went ahead and opened up the embrasures and started green stage finishing it to the other side. And you know, it's interesting in you know, long span bridges, I recommend it. Single unit molars, single unit premolars, you don't really have the need. This is more, you know, if anything, it's more for your aesthetic zone, for your hybrid restorations, things like that. Lower anterior bridge, maybe there's a large tissue or bone defect. So something like that, lower incisors, screw retained bridge, I would green stage finish it. You know, 3-unit bridge in the anterior, I would green stage finish it. You know, anything like that. Single units, you can, doesn't hurt, nothing wrong with it. Single units in the posterior, nothing wrong with it at all. To not do it. But if you do, it doesn't hurt. It's completely up to you. Depends on your lab and your time that you have available. This is going to be my flame that I use, and you can see that, you know, it's got the needle tip, but the belly of it is, you know, kind of fat. And I tell everybody I'll ride that back and forth. And I'm going to kind of talk about, you know, right after I get this cut, where, how, and why I'm cutting it in. And, you know, as fast as you're watching it right now is as fast as I cut it in. It shouldn't take that long. I generally have a game plan going into an anterior segment like this before I even start cutting. So I don't spend too much time thinking about how and why I'm going to place the anatomy and surface texture. I already know how and why I want to place it. And you can go ahead and place your developmental grooves. Again, this is your case. This is your restoration. So, you know, the possibilities are endless. Literally in how you can make this look, how deep you cut the surface texture, how intense the surface texture and anatomy is, you know, the intensity of the developmental grooves, things like that. That's completely up to you right now when you're working on this restoration. And you can see it start to take shape compared to the other side. And this really, I mean, in all honesty, this really makes a huge difference. Now we're talking about you're using a high quality zirconia. You're adding your surface texture anatomy, opening up your gingival and incisal embrasures now. It really does make a big difference. This zirconia that I'm actually using is the HT plus ML, the multi-layer that we've been talking about since Chicago. And I'm pretty excited, looking for a launch release date of at the end, beginning of the year. You know, and you could start adding your, you know, your anatomy, your surface texture. Primary, secondary, tertiary, it's all taking place. And compared to the other side, I mean, there's quite a difference. And sure, you can get a little bit of surface texture anatomy in it post-sinter. Again, I'm a little bit wary about how much we grind on it, especially when we talk about separating post-sintered zirconia with a disc. I don't do it. But the detail, it's just so much better. And try using a carver, you know, for little areas and little details. I think you guys will be quite surprised at how easily and how nicely it carves. And I kind of have a combination of different things going on here in these teeth. Showing a couple, you know, different effects. Again, it is a little bit on the heavy side, and that is kind of by design. I know what I want it to look like after it comes out from sintering. I think next time I should pick some, I don't know, a little bit more exciting music. And you can see the details right there. And that's kind of where we want to go. That would be ideal. And there's a sintered version. These blocks I kind of make and mill out. It's how I'll test zirconia. It's how I train technicians. We have these in the Absolute Art Academy. And this is a really nice way to kind of work on them. Here, we'll go ahead and wear our incisal edges down. It's one of my pet peeves. Incisal edges wear very distinct patterns. I'll use the black pencil to come right over the very facial, most incisal part of the tooth. And then when I wear down my incisal edge, my goal is to leave the black line, because that way I know I didn't shorten it. Remember, we can't tell exactly what we're doing at this point because we're larger than what it'll actually be after post-sinter. So I'll go ahead and leave that black line when I rubber wheel them down. And I'll come in now and I'll create my wear facets. Wear facets are, you know, really, really easy when I do them, especially in anteriors. I'll use the diamonds. You can use the black pencil to go ahead and outline the wear pattern, and then same thing, the scoop. So you're going to push it in and scoop up, and it's going to give you that kind of teardrop shape. Push it in, pull it back up, and it's going to give you a little teardrop. And that's all you got to do. You can come back in and kind of accentuate it a little bit more if you'd like with the round end taper to get a little bit deeper. But remember, push in, pull up. We can connect them right there on the central. Now, when we're talking about placing our anatomy, centrals have two distinct indentations. Laterals will have one. Cuspids will have two. With this combination, there's literally, again, it's endless what you can make those three teeth look like. How deep you place them, how close together you place them, how much wider one is compared to another. All of that comes into play, and there's an endless amount of possibilities, but that's basically the general layout. And you could use the Scotch-Brite where you've removed sprues, where it's kind of rough in areas. Maybe you didn't get a mill that milled out so smooth. Come back with the Scotch-Brite. It's really, really kind of, you know, user-friendly in the fact that it'll only remove the material you want, and it smooths up the zirconia very, very quickly. You don't want to deal with that stuff at the end. Again, I want to deal with cleaning up the zirconia as little as possible after it sinters. I want to basically give it a once-over, check occlusion, check function, and then go ahead and go right to stain and glaze. And this was just a really quick little demonstration to walk you guys through it, to give you an idea of how exactly I generally go about doing one of these. And you can see the gingiva there, a little bit of texture, a little bit of anatomy to it compared to the other side. And that's kind of what will look like. This is a completed one. And there's what will look like post-center. So, all right, 1 second. Now, I'm going to pull this up real quick for everybody. And Donnie, can you see that?
Okay,
So this
now
is
I'm
going
unmuted.
to be, this
Yes,
is going to be our social media. Everybody go and check it out, especially on the website. We have a bunch of different, manuals we post. We post a lot of the different cases. I'll post things in progress that I'm working on, different updates, lots of cool stuff. So I'm really interactive as far as the social media goes, and you guys could follow us. I was in Florida on Monday and Tuesday, so you'll always get to see my travels, where I'm at, who I'm with. So it's awesome, and the community with technicians is always so important to me. So that's where you can find us. If you guys go there now, we'll have updates, different things that are going on, as well as different downloads. And let me see here.
So Jack, you had a question in the Q&A.
Yeah, let's do questions. All right. The music was kind of putting me to sleep. Was it just me?
What? The music was, yeah, maybe we need it a little more lively next time.
Yeah, a little bit. Friday at 5. Come on, we need to.
Yeah. So if you can see it in the Q&A section, that I answered that I would point out to you. So that's why it says it's answered.
Okay.
But he's asking basically, why are we using a milling machine if we have to do all this in the green state? So I think maybe to speak a little bit about the details that can be achieved by hand versus a milling machine.
Yeah, so mills are great. Mills will get you 80% there. They give you everything you want. They give you your design. They work great. Mills are all different depending on the quality of the mill, depending on the positioning of the restoration within the puck. But it's all up to you. It's how far you want to take your restoration to the next level. So if you want to, it's completely up to you. If you want to mill it out, it's going to come out. You can take the sprues off, clean it up, and sinter it. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to go ahead and add your own signature, your own touch to it, and take your restoration to the next level, well, the mill is only going to get you so far. We're seeing that a lot with milling, now in printing. And one of the things, kind of I've changed course with some of the new material advancements is I only mill because I have to. And that's kind of where we are as far as material limitation goes. I'm going to go ahead and add and take that restoration to where I want to go. You could design it so far. You can put, more anatomy in the design. You could use other anatomy libraries. But at the end of the day, when it mills out, the mill is only going to be able to get you so much detail in that restoration, at least for now, with the mills that we have available today. For me, I want to add a little bit more into it. So. Any other questions? You guys are easy. Anybody want to ask me how much I've gained since all this has been going on? Guesses? Jeff Strunk, if you're out there, you don't count because you already know. I've gained 20 pounds. 20 pounds. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. Although some people said I was kind of sickly looking before, so maybe it's good. I don't know. Anybody in there?
Okay, Jack, we got another from Q&A.
Oh, it says 20 pounds. Really? I swear, 20 pounds. That's why I'm sitting down. I don't want you guys to see me actually stand up. I have a t-shirt on because it's the only thing I have left that fits me.
So we have a couple of questions for us here, Jack. The first is you get your basics for anteriors in the CAD and do the green state contouring. You get better results by hand than a lot of contouring in 3Shape or ExoCAD. So I think it's maybe a question, maybe more of kind of a statement because he's restating what you said, but it's an agreement.
Yeah, I think it sounds kind of like it's an agreement. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Roy's asking if we can do full arch zirconia with this new and absolute. It's 1250 megapascals.
Yeah, to give you guys, I mean, this zirconia for me is really ideal for hybrids. I mean, it's ideal for any restoration lab. To give you guys kind of an idea of where we're at today, and here at Absolute, I would say the better part of restorations, you know, in Absolute that are fabricated are going to be, you know, at least 85 to 90% zirconia. The rest is going to be a little bit of stragglers of Emax, a little bit of stragglers of PFM, and some PMMA. The restorations that are zirconia, we use two zirconias. We're going to have the lower strength multi-layer zirconia, the STML. That's going to be for our aesthetic work, anteriors, things like that. Then we're going to have a high strength option, which is going to be the HT plus and going to be HT plus ML ultimately. Those two zirconias, you can cover every restoration that comes in the laboratory. There's nothing that you can't do. And I'm not talking about cutting them back and layering them either. There's no layering. This coupled with a good stain and glaze kit and really perfecting your skills with full contour. Full contour has been a dream of mine for the longest time. And we're able to realize that now because of the quality of zirconias we're able to use. So what else do we got?
Any tips on pre-center coloring or use of Ponic reducer on single units?
Don't do it. So here's my take. And actually somebody called me, they registered for this. And they called me yesterday at the lab, and it's not usual that I get to do this, but I had a couple minutes, so I gave him a call back, and he asked me, what do you think about pre-center stains? And my first reaction is, do not do it. Now, that's me personally. Like I said, guys, I'm very honest and truthful with you. I only tell you what I do. There's no BS. A lot of you have been to the laboratory. A lot of you have seen me do a lot of what I talk about, you know, in person. So I don't tell you I do something that I don't believe in that. And pre-center stain has been, and now there's people that love it. And, you know, I'm not telling you that they're wrong, but it has been a scourge of this industry since its onset. You know, I've done a lot of consulting for laboratories and a lot of training for technicians over the years. And I did it back to back to back to back. I would go into a laboratory on, you know, Friday. We do a whole thing on pre-centered stain. The next couple of days it would be going good, and 2 weeks later they would call me back to the laboratory because, you know, it's so difficult as far as consistency goes. You don't know what it's going to look like till after it's already too late. The only way to fix it is to go ahead and remill it if it does come out wrong. Then you got added labor. You got to actually have a technician sit there and do it. So I am very, if I seem like I'm very strongly opinionated about it, yeah, don't do it. Avoid it at all costs.
So Jack, not to interrupt you, but we've got 2 minutes and 3 more questions. So
let's do it.
Do you do any green state coloring to the gingiva area?
No, I don't. And I'll go really, really quick. I used to, guys. I used to use the Zircon Zon coloring liquids for the gingiva. I got on that and I was stuck on it. And I came back off of it. And I went back to how I used to do metal ceramic hybrids. When I did metal ceramic hybrids, I would never use pink opaque. And the reason why is because we were building up the porcelain, and it looks, I like the effects you get when you do, let's say a B1 is a base underneath the gingiva. That hasn't changed for me. I've gone back to that a long time ago, and I only apply my gingival ceramics I know I use Mio Pink directly to the zirconia with no pink infiltration at all. I go right, if it's A2, I go right to A2. If it's A1, I go right to A1. It does affect it a little bit as far as obviously B1 could be lighter than A2, but I kind of control that with the mix of how intense it is before I apply it. So they all kind of balance out.
Let's see, types of stain and glaze kits that you use. I know you've mentioned Mio a couple of times.
Yep. Still use Mio. Been really happy with it, and it kind of works with everything that I do, and the gingival ceramics especially. That's been a real game changer for me. I've been at the hybrid game forever, and that has completely changed it. 100%. The effects I'm able to get are awesome.
Have you ever run into an issue with the manufactured puck shade and having to mill something out of a lighter shade?
I haven't. I really haven't. When I do hybrids, I'll use the A1 light and the A2 light just because it's a lot thicker. The zirconia, the mass, and it gets a little bit heavier, is intense as far as the chroma goes. But generally, no. You know, especially with Argen, these guys really, really work hard to get the shades dialed in. And again, you know, we're technicians and we're consumers of product, and you know, we are the worst critics in the world. So,
I know that Becky's come on the screen. She's given us our last minute. Becky, is there a way that I can keep the questions that are here and answer them individually after the course so that Jack and I can get together?
Lewis, nice deal. I see that's not a bad deal at all, brother. I need to get there with you. I need to lay off the beer. Lay off the beer and cigars. I can't be hanging out with you guys talking when I talk like this.
Donnie, I'll have all the information for you after, so you can reach out individually, or they can also go back to your booth at labdayonline.com/ArgenCore and talk to you guys about any of that too.
I use Trilor for the Trinia question. And Trilor actually comes in pink now too, so it's really, really cool. But that's a whole nother topic in this.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it. I hate that it was so short. Jack can talk all day long about zirconia.
I know.
So, I appreciate you guys being engaged as you were. And thank you, Jack, for your partnership and our continued support and for making our stuff look so great, buddy.
Everybody stay safe and stay healthy. And thank you guys so much. Everybody have an amazing and fabulous weekend. Thank you.